once it says, boom. No, it's not in my pocket. Oh, it's on the podium. No, it's not. Yes, it is. So we don't need to flip through it.
All right, it's working. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. We are thrilled to be having, once again, in person, our Richard and Mary Schmitz Food Entrepreneurship Lecture, featuring today Julie Curtis, who's the owner and president of Curtis Foods Recruiters. I am Brenda Flannery, and I'm the Dean of the College of Business and a Professor of Management. And we are, as I said, thrilled to be in person once again to be able to feature this very important, I would say, signature lecture for campus. I want to begin by acknowledging that we've had just a great team putting this event together, and that we have attendees both coming to us virtually as well as in person. The pandemic has really changed a lot about the way we do things, and so to be able to bring via Zoom students and industry leaders, and also, I believe, members of Julie's team, it's pretty awesome. So to those of you on Zoom, welcome. We're thrilled to have you with us via Zoom. We have some really special guests here in the audience. I want to begin by recognizing our interim provost, Dr. Brian Martinson. All of you are kind of in the dark right now, but I think I saw you walking, Brian. I saw you over there. Thanks for being here. Also, our Associate Vice President of Research and our Dean of Extended Ed, Dr. Terry Wallace, is here, sitting next to Brian, I believe. Great to have you here, both of you. Also, we're really thrilled to have a lot of our faculty from the College of Business and from across the university here. So thank you, faculty, for being here. I think I'm going to have you stand up just because we're all in person and we can do that. So those who are faculty, thank you for being here. Could you stand, please? Yeah, there's Joe and Anam and DQ and Kyle and I think Kristen. And thank you for being here. And Melissa. We have a great, truly an extraordinary team, and without that faculty team, we would have never been able to launch, during the pandemic, a brand new agribusiness and food innovation program. And so I'm just so grateful for their hard work. We also have some partners from South Central and the Minnesota State Southern Minnesota Agricultural Center of Excellence. That's part of Min-State and really a very important partner to us. And I know I saw Nathan here. I'm not sure I saw Dr. Megan Roberts is here. Why don't you both stand, because we're really grateful to have you with us today. Thank you very much. And also, another partner that's so important to us is Green Seam, and the director, Sam Ziegler's here. Thank you, Sam, as always, for your partnership and for being with us. And I want to thank Minnesota Valley Business Magazine for helping sponsor today's event and for highlighting a lot of what we do in the college. So our most honored guest, Dick, Richard Schmitz, is here with us, and he and his wife, Mary, started this program, the Richard and Mary Schmitz Food Entrepreneurship Lecture Series, back in 1999, and they started this as a way to really highlight for campus the food and ag area. And Dick is a 1964 graduate from Minnesota State Mankato with an accounting degree from the College of Business. And in 1973, he purchased his first retail food store in Olivia, Minnesota, followed by one in Hudson, Wisconsin, and he would go on to own multiple stores in the Duluth area as well as in Wisconsin. And in 2003, he sold his stores and retired from business. Well, for a long time, Dick has supported Minnesota State University in Mankato in a lot of roles, including serving as the president of the foundation board. He was also the winner of the 2002 Harold J. Fitterer Service Award as a distinguished alumni. Dick, your dedication to the college has come to fruition, and we want to thank you for that constant reminder of how important food and entrepreneurship are to our society. And although Mary was unable to attend and join us today, I want to ask Dick to stand as we all thank him for his generosity he has made and being able to make this event possible. Thank you so much, Dick. Thank you. So this event, like I said, was started years ago, and a few years ago, we really started this series to be featuring food entrepreneurship. And this annual lecture now features industry experts in the category of food entrepreneurship. And we've been privileged to really highlight executives within a broad range of the food processing, retailing, and wholesaling industries, including alumnus Mark Davis from Davisco and Cambria, who was a speaker, alumnus Glenn Stolt with Christensen Farms, Dave Redding with Rembrandt Foods, Mankatoans Dan and Angie Bastian with Boom Chicka Pop, Frank Jackman, an alumnus with Local Crate. And last year, we were able to highlight Christian Duncanson with Highland Family Farms and Cheryl Meskey with AMPI. And I believe Cheryl might even be with us via Zoom. Like I said, this series provides an opportunity for Minnesota State University Mankato's College of Business to engage the growing sector of agribusiness with our students, alumni, friends, and partners in a format that educates the community about the growing needs in ag and food. We are taking great strides to elevate programming around ag and food with such initiatives as our new major in agribusiness and food innovation, the Henze Ag Leadership Program, which I believe we have quite a few students here today that are with that Ag Leadership Program, and our Big Ideas Challenge, which has introduced an ag and food category whereby a student entrepreneur could win up to almost $20,000 to help launch their business ideas. So today's event is a really wonderful opportunity to highlight what is being done in this area. And we are absolutely thrilled to have with us today alumna Julie Curtis. I want to introduce today's moderator, Dr. Shane Bowyer, who is our director of the Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, as well as the director of the Agribusiness and Food Innovation Program. He's an assistant professor of management and teaches in the United Prairie Bank Integrated Business Experience Program. Dr. Bowyer is going to be hosting a fireside chat with Julie. And please help me welcome to the stage Shane, and let's start off this fireside chat. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Dean Flannery. Before you go, first of all, thank you very much for supporting ag, and thanks for the introduction. But all that we do here, goes back to your support, both ag and entrepreneurship. So we appreciate all that you do here for the College of Business.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Oh, shush.
Thank you. Okay. Actually, I want to, Dick, we have a gift here for you. So please, if I might, thank you again for everything that you do for us.
Okay. Now you can get off.
All right.
That's great to be able to tell your boss to get off, right? Get out there. So before I get on with welcoming Julie Curtis, I want to say thanks to Dick. It was probably 20 years ago when I first met Dick, just about when you were selling your stores, and I remember you saying, "I want to have more time for golf, for pheasant hunting, and for the Vikings." And well, you lost a lot of golf balls. All right, the pheasants are still flying, and how about those Vikings? Okay, but thank you for all that you've done. And I want to recognize one other person here today, Megan Schmitz. Megan was actually one of the first students in the Ag Today Club. I think you helped get that going. Megan is the niece of Dick, and she is also from Brewster. By the way, this last weekend I went to see my daughter in Sioux Falls. I was driving by, and there's Brewster, so I had to drive around Brewster to look for your statue, but they said it was down for cleaning, I guess. Okay. All right. So now on to the show now with our featured guest today, Julie Curtis. Julie is an alum. She graduated in 1996, and then she went on into industry. And she was with Kraft, and then she went into some executive recruiting with her father, and then back into more industry with Nash, a food company. And like all good entrepreneurs, Julie saw a gap And she saw that gap that there's some missing elements in the food recruiting and hiring executives. And so she did that other thing all good entrepreneurs do. She took that risk. And she took that risk and went out on her own and started Curtis Food Recruiters. And as you think about where she is now, she's got numerous employees. She's been named to the Forbes top list of executive food recruiters. She's also been in the Minneapolis-St. Paul Business Journal, which is a big journal, as one of the top executive recruiters as well. So we're very fortunate to have one of our own, an alum, with us today for our fireside chat. Please help me welcome Julie Curtis. Okay. Okay. All right. Well, this is going to be fun. Yeah. So we're just going to have a little chat, and we're going to sit back and enjoy a few things. And so we're going to cover a couple elements around both food and entrepreneurship and recruiting and talent. So we're going to hit a bunch of different elements. But let's just kind of start out with a little bit about who you are and how did you get the start into the food industry?
So I think you gave them a little bit of an overview. I graduated from, at the time, Mankato State, and started my career with Kraft, the food service division of Kraft, as a buyer. And I did a couple other roles with Super Value and Nash Finch in procurement and category management. It was a great training ground. I learned a ton, really enjoyed it. And as my career was progressing, I was looking at sales roles and where my career was headed, and my father owned an executive search firm and asked me if I would come and work for him, and how do you say no to that? So I came in and started to build. They did a lot of agriculture and food manufacturing. I started to build the retail grocery segment from an executive recruitment standpoint. I did that for a number of years, and then one of my clients, which is Spartan Nash today, they asked me to come in and lead their talent acquisition and corporate HR function. So I was getting a great foundation in the food industry as a whole, specifically for distribution and grocery retail. And a couple years in, I thought, hey, why not start my own company? And so it was about a year of planning and thinking and putting goals in place and saving. And in 2006, I started Curtis Food Recruiters.
Okay. Oh, wonderful. And so you had some experiences and with family, but when you think back to specific, whether it be internships or anything in college that resonated with you, that really helped you?
You know, I knew from my family experiences that I wanted to go into the food industry, so I knew that was a goal of mine. Besides the family connection, that was really where it was at, and it was just something that I knew I wanted to do. But I look back now, and I think there were so many opportunities for internships and getting involved with campus activities and groups, and I really didn't do a lot of that.
Okay. Yeah, we were walking around campus earlier today. We were at the radio station. We did a few other things, and we talked about the union and how it's changed. And she mentioned the old dance club that was downstairs, and how things have changed on campus. And so yeah, that was a lot of fun, kind of walking through and reminiscing about the old times. But before we get into some more of this, let's start out and get to know you a little bit better with some rapid fire questions. Okay, we're gonna have a little fun with this, all right? So just a yes or repeat which one it is, okay? Which one you like best, okay? Dog or cat?
Dog.
Dog, okay. iPhone or Android?
iPhone.
Okay. Beach or mountains?
Beach.
Beach. Fall or spring?
Fall.
Okay. And up here we have winter keeps going and coming back, and yeah, so the fall, all right. While walking, music or podcast?
Oh, music.
Okay. What's worse, laundry or dishes?
Dishes.
Okay, dishes. My wife doesn't let me answer that one. She just says, you do dishes because
right?
I'll mess the laundry up and
You get both.
be the different colors. Yeah. All right, so let's go off of that. Let's go back into a little bit more on your entrepreneurship and dig in on the business a little bit. But that moment that you decided to become an entrepreneur, you left corporate America. You had probably a lot good benefits and a lot of that. Can you remember taking that leap, that risk, what that was like?
So a little bit, when I think back about it, I think I was probably overly confident. I didn't have a real sense that this wasn't going to work. And if it didn't, I could just go back into corporate America. That was really part of my naivete. And, but I planned and I saved and spent about a year thinking about that before actually taking the leap. But a big reason that I wanted to do that was to have a little bit more control and a little bit more balance.
Okay, all right. Yeah, it is. The world of entrepreneurship, students, nowadays they want that entrepreneurship degree, but there's some of those elements in there of risk that, we hope that they're there for them as they go into their career on down the line. So that's a lot of fun, working with our entrepreneurship students. Oh.
It is on.
Let's try that. Is it better now? You want to say something?
Can you hear me now?
Okay. All right. Okay. Lots of challenges, lots of when you started the business. So we named our management. We've added to the name of our management department entrepreneurship. So it's been kind of a focus for us. But there's always challenges and highlights, when it comes to that, and the benefits of being your own boss. Can you elaborate a little bit more on the challenges of starting a business?
Yeah, I think there are a couple things that no one tells you. I think one of them is that you have to be all things when you start a business. You're the only one. So you're in my case, I was the recruiter, I was the salesperson, I was the accountant, I was the marketing person. Yeah. The PR person, you have to do everything. And in many cases, you're not an expert. You're an expert in the thing that you started to do. And then little by little, you are able to hire others that are experts in those fields. You're able to hire an accountant and hire a marketing person and do those kinds of things. But, the sales component and being the face of your brand, that PR component really never goes away. You're always selling whatever that business is that you've started.
Yeah, it is. You said you're the face of the company, and you're always there, and so that is a big part. One of the other elements of your business is that it's women-owned, but you also have a number of women that work for you as well. Can you just talk a lot about, we're talking about food and ag, we'll get into that a little bit more, but that industry it's not real diverse. And can you talk about the food ag industry on the diversity side as a woman-led business?
I feel very privileged in my life and my career to have not felt a lot of the ramifications of the gender divide within the food industry. That said, we see a lot of really interesting components. When people graduate from college, it's usually about a 50-50 split within the food industry. Ag, it's not quite, it's definitely leans toward men going into that industry. What's really interesting is that as we grow in our career, as you go into a manager level position, that number, instead of being 50%, is closer to 35%. And then it continues to go down as the levels go up. So as a senior vice president, executive vice president, chief executive officer, and other C-level roles, it's only about 20% women in those roles. And that's something that we think about a lot in our firm, specifically diversity, recruiting, people that are going to bring diverse thoughts into the business, that are going to bring in new ideas and creative ideas is extremely important. But as women grow in their careers, and this really goes for everyone, it's important, we are told to work hard and deliver results and you'll get noticed. But that isn't always the case. And so many times you have to take it upon yourself to call out what you have done, what results you have actually delivered, and make sure that people know. it's also important that when you're in those meetings, when you're in those moments where you have the opportunity to share your opinion, to share your ideas, that you do. That you stand up and use your voice and show people that you are engaged and that you're an expert in the role that you play within that organization. And I think that that assertiveness and confidence is something that we need more of within the food industry, especially as it relates to women.
Yeah, that's great. I know we had a luncheon this afternoon or earlier today with some ag professionals, and thank you for those that are here with that. But one of the conversations was around this, and I think it was Megan Roberts. She knows some data. Dr. Roberts has a lot of data, but more than 50% of the students now in ag are women, and they're really coming. And even going back, Megan, do you remember our first club? I think there was way more women in that first ag club than there was men, and so lots of women coming in, and it's good to hear. But there are still, as you mentioned, lots of challenges ahead and areas. So as we think about talent, and it's such a big issue right now, and I think we're going to have to pause here real quick. Oh, no, you're taking that away? Okay, I thought you were bringing it back over here. Okay, they were taking it for someone else. You are coming back. So that mic isn't working. Oh, okay.
Okay, great.
Talk again.
Here I am.
Okay, now we hear you. Yes. Yeah, so it's kind of fun. I think I have a couple students here. We talked about technology, right, students? And we talked about that in class yesterday, making sure you're prepped before. And as well as we can prepare, there's always something that goes awry with it. And I guess that's the world we live in with technology. But so talent, it is, you see for sale signs all over, and, or not for sale signs, help wanted signs. Yeah, for sale signs, yes, and for sale signs, yes. So what are the qualities that these companies are looking for? They want people, yes, but what are those qualities of, especially the early stage careers of our students that are here? What are the qualities that you hear in the industry that the HR directors and companies are looking for?
Yeah, I think there are a couple things. There are communication skills is key. I think, you guys have spent the last 2 years on Zoom and not in live in-person interaction. So having eye contact and having good, concise communication skills, being able to convey your ideas is really critical. I think there's other, components of just, hardworking, doing your research, understanding the business, understanding your role, or, as you're interviewing, understanding what that role is and what that business does. And, bringing your energy and passion to whether that's a first conversation and an interview and into that first role that you have. One of the things that I remember about my very first job was I was notoriously late for things. In college, they didn't really mind, and I showed up about 10 minutes late for work, and there was a little sticky note on my desk that said, please see me, we start at 7:30, SK. Still to this day, one of my favorite bosses, but it was the we. Like, we're a team, we're all in this together, we have a job to do, we all need to be here at the same time. It was that little moment of, okay, this isn't just about me, this is about a bigger group. And so having that energy and that passion to be a part of that team.
Yeah. Yeah, earlier today as well, one of our professors, Dr. D.Q. Spencer, he was saying that, just little tips like that, you want to be noticed, come 15 minutes early, stay 15 minutes later, yeah. and all those little things that students need to continue to learn as they're going forward. But time management, yes, it's I've been fortunate. I've had a lot of good students this semester. They haven't been strolling in too late. It's been pretty good. I always tell them, better be there than be not come at all.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But let's take it a step further. And so the students, once they get into a position, there was a student yesterday I was talking about, and I said, what position do you want? And he goes, I just want to be the CEO of a company. And well, that's not. You're going to have a few years in between there, right? And but how are the steps from that entry level? How can they keep preparing themselves to move up, and the qualities that they need to be a leader within in a company?
So a couple things. I think patience is one of those keys, is having enough time in each of those roles to learn what your contribution is to that particular business. One of the things we talk a lot about in the assessment process when we're assessing executive level talent is business, strategic, and financial acumen. So really understanding the needs of that business and preparing yourself. Career development is key at all levels. And sometimes, especially in smaller organizations, you're going to need to ask for it. It isn't something that they just have a plan for. Much larger organizations do. They've got training programs and development programs. And so sometimes you'll have to get that experience, that development outside of the organization you're with through different associations, different mentorship programs. But that is, something that's key for all executives as they continue. They've all done that kind of development, developing their soft skills and their leadership skills, but also developing their business acumen and financial acumen.
Okay, great. Students, if you get my class from yesterday, we had that executive in class yesterday that took that 2 hours before us, networking and preparing himself as an executive as well. I mean, he's been in the industry for a long time, but he was still learning and still trying to make himself better through other people. And I'm glad you brought that up again. But I'm going to keep going down this talent. Okay, and students, it's hard to navigate what's happening. There's frenzy of all of the stuff that's going on right now. The students are going to be graduating kind of with a little upper hand. Yes. I think there's lots of opportunities. How do they navigate the opportunities? Do they ask for more money, or do they just, what are some of the things, because there's hiring bonuses, all these types of things. How do students, how can they navigate going into the careers with the state right now? So
I think a couple things that I'll say is apply early and often. Apply to as many things as you think are interesting to you with different companies. Take anybody, take all interviews. The more conversations you have with the HR leadership, with the hiring managers, the more conversations you have, the more opportunities you'll have. But it'll also give you an opportunity to find out, is this really of interest to me? Is this a company I'm interested in? Is this a position I'm interested in? And I think so often in an interview situation, the HR person's asking all the questions, and really be prepared to ask your own questions. Think about the things that are deal breakers for you. Think about the things that are really important for you. If career development is important for you, ask in that interview, at the end of the interview, ask what the succession plan is, what the career path is for this particular role, so that you have an understanding of what that looks like. Don't just apply for roles that are looking for entry-level people. Think about roles that are looking for 1 to 3 years experience. Many times that is what they put out there, and they will still be very interested, especially in this talent market. They'll still be interested in having those conversations with fresh grads. I think you talked a little bit about sign-on bonuses, hiring bonuses. Your first job, I don't know that it's really appropriate to ask. If they offer, great. But do ask the questions around what is the salary range for the role, so that you have an idea of what that particular position pays and what you want to do that particular position. Think about and ask about benefits. Ask about hybrid and remote working environments. That's something that is more commonplace, but in the food and agriculture industry, if my clients had their druthers, they would move everybody back to the office. They would love to see the faces of all of their employees on a daily basis. So if that's important to you, make sure to ask that question. But being prepared and asking those questions and feeling comfortable asking them and not just being on the receiving end of the questions.
Okay. Oh, yeah, good advice. So take heed, and hopefully you are in those positions, students, here soon as you're graduating and getting offers for that. This next question I'm going to ask is a little broad, big picture. Where do you think what are the trends and changes that are going to be happening in the labor market in a year, maybe 5 years? We know what's happening now. It's crazy. Is it going to continue? Is it, and this is a crystal ball type thing,
Yeah.
so it's just.
You know, the last statistic I read was this is going to continue till 2030. I don't know if that's really true, but that was one of the statistics I read. So this talent, or this market and this shortage of labor, it's going to impact you from a graduation standpoint, is you're going to have a lot more opportunities than you would have in a normal economy, in a normal market. But it will also impact you in your first job. You may have to do more with less. You may have to do multiple people's roles because those other roles aren't filled. If you're in human resources, you will be very focused on not only hiring and getting talent and getting labor in the manufacturing facilities and on the farms, but you're also looking at how do we motivate people? How do we get people? How do we retain people? How do we get people to stay with our organization? So there are a lot of things that are happening from that perspective. And I think that, looking at some of the needs that we have, that we've seen, we see growing needs in human resources. We see growing needs for talent acquisition managers and directors. We see growing needs for diversity and inclusion managers. So we're seeing that across the board with all companies, not just food companies.
Yeah, okay. So there looks like there's going to always be the need for HR directors and people with this. I know we have some faculty here, a couple from our HR department, and but for our students, our HR students, what advice specifically? I'm just going to go off here just for the specific HR students. What advice would you give an HR student right now?
So I think, when I think about HR, a lot of times I think about recruiting. And so there's a couple different paths you can go. You can be in an external role in a search capacity. It's a great way to learn the industry and learn the business, getting your research and your sourcing credentials, learning that particular part of the industry. And then there's the internal HR, which has a really broad group of positions. And that's one of the things I think people don't really understand is how many areas just within human resources they can go into, whether it's traditional employee relations, whether it's benefits, whether it's compensation, whether it's recruitment, diversity and inclusion. And I would say that really understanding and getting involved with some of the HR organizations that are out there. Lots of them have student memberships that are very inexpensive, and they really cater to and want students to be a part of their organization so that they can learn more about human resources. So I think that there are different sides of it, whether it be internal or external.
Okay, all right. Well, great advice, there for the students. Let's kind of move on to one of our last topics here, the food and ag side. Lots of things have happened, especially since COVID, with food and what's really kind of currently happening. And we know toilet paper flew off right away, and some of the foods did, but the foods kind of maintained, but or came back because we all need to eat, right? And there's so many things. So, what is currently happening in the food industry right now?
It's fast moving. It is ever changing. I would say the supply chain disruptions are top of mind. Need for ingredients. Our global supply chain has been taxed with the rise in crude oil prices and gas prices. We're seeing real challenges from a distribution standpoint. We're seeing challenges in the labor market from a manufacturing standpoint, from a driver shortage. It is that supply chain component is also super interesting and has a lot of diverse components to it, whether it's logistics, whether it's procurement, whether it's demand planning, all those components. But it is it's happening so fast, and the food industry and agriculture has not notoriously moved extremely fast in their thinking or how they change. And so, you think about e-commerce and omni-channel. You guys have grown up with it. You, have really always had Amazon at your fingertips. But when you think about Shipt and Instacart and delivery services like that, for the grocery industry, it's only really been around for 6 years. So they're trying to navigate that space and figure out what they can do to either have that as an internal function versus using a third party. So that e-commerce and omni-channel is a big space for them right now too.
Yeah, there's so much innovation and things that are happening. It's just, it's amazing how fast the food industry keeps moving. There's a lot of other things that are impacting our world right now. COVID, but now all of a sudden, we come into the oil and, the Ukrainian, Russian, and Ukraine being the breadbasket, of how is, what are your thoughts on that? How is that changing the food industry of what's without getting too political with all of this, but how is that impacting the food industry right now?
So, there are a couple different things that come from the Ukraine specifically. When we look at wheat, corn, other grain supplies, they're a huge supplier to Europe, and it just has that ripple effect. So even if we're not buying directly from them, if Europe can't get product from them, they've got to get product elsewhere. So we're seeing a shortage in those commodities. All edible oils, they do a ton of sunflower oil and different vegetable oils. So what the big impact is price increases for us, right? Limited supply, high demand is going to result in price increases across the globe. And it's, if the war ended tomorrow, we would still see the ripple effects of that for years to come.
Wow. Yeah, so we got to prepare for that. So when it's over, it's not going to be over. Oh, good. Some good advice there. Along the lines of food, let's take a little another fun break here. Let's do a little bit more, a couple more rapid fire ones. But let's focus on food here, real quick. Fruit or vegetable?
Oh, fruit.
Fruit. Okay. Coffee or tea?
Neither.
Neither. No. Okay. All right. Cake or pie?
Pie.
Okay. Dine in or delivery?
Dine in.
Okay. And the last one, Mavericks or Gophers?
Mavericks.
Okay, you better say that. And you got to remember, we're Mavericks, very similar to you. That's that entrepreneurial spirit, right? And that's something that we embrace. And go Mavericks this weekend with hockey, coming up. So let's just we're going to kind of wrap this up now with some parting questions, some little bit more advice to the students. Okay, we're going to bring these conversations. So if you would have had done one thing differently or have known coming out of college in your early career, what would that have been?
So I think I might have mentioned this earlier, internships. I wish that I had one job during my senior year that was in a market research firm, and I learned a ton, and I watched what my manager did, and I'd had a great market research teacher, and we did a fun project, and I thought that's what I wanted to do, and so I got that job. And I learned pretty quickly that that was not what I wanted to do. It was not the best fit for me and my personality. But I wish that I had done multiple internships, because I think that teaches you not just what you want to do, but what maybe you don't want to do. So I would recommend that. I said this to you when we were walking around earlier. I didn't use the resources that were on campus. I didn't spend a lot of time building relationships with my professors. I didn't spend time in the College of Business talking to the faculty. And so I think that you've got a real resource there of people that want to help you, that want to answer questions, that want to help you navigate this, and they're just there for the asking. And then I would say that the final thing is building a network of people, whether those are a combination of students or people that you've worked for, or people that you did internships for, but really building out that network of people that you can rely on in the future.
Okay. All right. So before we wrap up, do you have any last questions or comments, for you that we haven't covered here that?
So I think it goes back to what we were talking about before. I think getting involved with the, whether it's the ag associations or the food fraternity, the business fraternity, things like that. So really getting involved, but don't just be a member. Don't just sign up and pay your $25 or whatever it is, but really get involved. Get involved with events like this, making sure that you're meeting people, that Shane knows who you are, right? That Brenda knows who you are, getting involved and really building some of those relationships. Just from the standpoint of it helps you practice. It helps you practice building those internal relationships within the first company that you go work for. I'd say that activity piece, that participation piece is really important. I was so head down just worrying about my classes and my part-time job, but I really wish that I had been a little bit more participative during my education. And then, one of the things I think about that's important for everyone as they go into are getting ready to graduate and are leaving Minnesota State University, that they think about what makes them special, what makes them different. Whenever I interview a candidate, there's always that question, right? Tell me about yourself. You're always gonna have that every single time on some level, in some verbiage. So be prepared to tell them about yourself and be prepared to identify what's really special about you. Are you a great communicator? Are you a planner? Are you analytical? Whatever it is that makes you different than the next person they're going to talk to, make sure you identify that.
Okay. Well, this has been fun. Kind of like I said after our radio show this morning, it was like, okay, what's going on coming into this? And it came out to be a pleasant conversation. And this was, I really enjoyed this part of it. But we're not done.
Oh,
okay,
great.
we've got some more. But it's been such a pleasure to do this. And so we've got our marketing team. We've got Olivia Anderson and Josie Sanford and Emily Thomas that are standing by out in the audience, and they've got microphones, and they're also on Zoom for questions. So this is the time where we turn it over to the audience for questions and answers. So, raise your hand out there, and they'll come around with a microphone. If you're on Zoom, they've got it, and out of somewhere the question will come. We don't know where it'll come from, but it'll come from somewhere. So is there any hands up there for a question? Okay, we got it's hard to see up here, but there's one coming down here.
All right. Hi, I just had a quick question for you. What do you think about the about ethanol with the current oil price?
Throw me an easy one right away. And I've said this many times, I think it's unfortunate that we sort of backed off on North Dakota and some of the oil reserves and options that we had there. And so I think we're going to see a rise in that. I think there's just no getting around it. I think I paid double over the course of the couple of weeks to fill up my gas tank. And so that's going to have, it just has this big ripple effect, right? It has an effect on supply, and we're Americans, right? Our demand doesn't go down. We want more of everything.
All right, any questions? Got one back there. And
So the food industry is not really attractive to most, but what would you say is the biggest misconception throughout your career about the food industry?
The misconception of ag. Yep.
So I'm going to start with agriculture and then move into food. I think that people think of agriculture as just farming, right, or just raising animals. I don't think they think about it in terms of all of the corporate roles that go along with that function, right? Whether that's operations, whether that's human resources, whether that's marketing and sales. There's so many more roles that are, similar to almost every other industry. And it's the same with the food industry. It may not be sexy, but it is critical. And as we found in the last few years, it is an essential need for our planet, and it continues to grow. when I was growing up, my dad used to always say, the food industry, while it might not be recession-proof, it is recession-resistant. And that's another component, that you have a little less risk in ag and food.
Okay. How about, we'll pause here. We're going to kind of try to go back and forth a little bit. Was there one from Zoomland?
Yes.
Okay. All right. The power, I guess. Yeah. Here it comes.
What's your advice for building a strong relationship and creating a strong network with others?
So that's a great question. I think it's harder now than it ever has been, especially in sort of remote and hybrid roles. I think that making sure that you are being proactive, that you're reaching out to not only the people that are on your team, if you're going in an HR role or a marketing role, not just those people, but those cross-functional partners, so that you can reach out, ask them questions. People love to talk about themselves, not necessarily on a stage like this, but in general, they want to tell you about their path, and they want to share that wisdom with you, and all they need is to be asked. So I think developing those kind of relationships out of the blue, doing it remotely is a little bit harder. I think that even before you get your first job, reaching out to people on LinkedIn, reaching out to connections that Shane has, connections that the university can help you make, and having those conversations. But networking isn't one conversation, right? It's continuing to build that relationship over weeks, months, and years.
Mm-hmm. Okay, all right, thanks for that. Good questions.
Good afternoon. I have a question from a talent acquisition standpoint. When you're an HR professional looking to acquire talent, I think the typical factors: you have salary, you have benefits, you have an organizational commitment to to the employee's professional development, as well as opportunities to advance, or even that connection to mission or the why of the organization. Those are sort of the tools in your tool belt. What do you see specifically in the food and ag industry as, among those markers? What's the biggest challenge to food and ag? And do you see ways that that's being addressed as an industry?
Well, so, one of the things that I think about immediately is that our margins are just very different, right? We have much lower margins. And so sometimes in the food and ag industry, we can't be as competitive from a compensation standpoint or a benefit standpoint. We try really hard to get to that right level from a market data standpoint and making sure that we're compensating people the right way. I think a little bit of it is branding, right? And making sure that we're communicating what kinds of things we do offer, who we are. We were talking about this earlier today. There are companies right here, 15 minutes from Mankato, that no one's ever heard of, and they're $2 billion companies. And so it's really important to be able to communicate what you have to offer people that maybe is not monetarily weighted.
Okay. Another question from Zoom.
What are your favorite characteristics in your own employees, and how do you coach and/or encourage their best performance?
Gosh, I feel like somebody from my team might have put that question out there. I'll say two things. And one, I'm kind of stealing from my mentor. He said, always hire somebody with great customer service skills, somebody who really likes people, who wants to do the best that they can for their clients, their internal clients, external clients. So I would say that's one of the components that I always look for, is someone that has just really likes people, likes working with people, wants to do their best and make sure that their clients get the best from them. I think we've said this a couple times so far. Communication, having good, concise communication skills, making sure that they can clearly articulate what it is that in our world, a candidate has to offer our client, making sure that we're on the same page with our client about what that cadence looks like. How often do they want to be communicated to? Do they want, a weekly brief? Do they want more daily contact? There was a second part to that question. I think it had something to do with development.
Was there?
Is there a second part? How do you encourage their best? Okay, I'm just going to go with that.
Okay.
So in terms of
How do you encourage their best performance?
Yeah.
You know, I think that it has a lot to, we've built this team of women specifically that encourage each other, that give our best to each other. And so I think, I don't feel like I have to do a lot. I think I hire people that are internally motivated and really want to do a good job. But I think in general, people are always motivated by feeling like they've done a good job and making sure that they are acknowledged and appreciated.
Okay. Oh, we got hands. Okay, here's one down here. Okay.
What's your advice to someone who's lived in the city but wants to become more involved with agriculture?
You know, I think that this program, right, is the first step. But I also think that agriculture doesn't mean you grew up on a farm, right? Being interested in agriculture, I think all of the organizations, especially in this particular market, they want and they need your you to come work for them, right? So they're happy if you grew up in the middle of Minneapolis. They're happy to have you, and they're happy to teach you. Like, they want to share this information about an industry that they're really passionate about.
Okay. Any more online, or there's still some out there?
How long do you recommend for staying in a job or with a company before looking for a new role?
I also feel like that might have come from my team. So, I'm a little bit older than some of you, and so, there are certain organizations where you can go from position to position every 18 months. That's their rotation, maybe 18 to 24 months. I would say I love to see 3 years. 3 years in a role. That first year, you're really still learning. That second year, you really can start to make some impact. And that third year, you're really driving and delivering results. And by the end of 3 years within that role, that's a perfect time to kind of move on and take that next step up. So 3 years is a magic number for me.
All right. Are we going to allow the dean to ask a question?
Right?
I don't know about this.
I think it might be a hard one.
Oh,
Yeah.
come now. So you had a question about recruitment, but one of the things that has been really top of mind for so many in our country right now is the Great Resignation. And I believe you recently wrote and talked about that a little bit as to how companies can really engage in being able to prevent possibly some of that resignation. Could you share what you have found to be some of the key ways that companies might look at keeping employees and what might be contributing to the Great Resignation?
So I think there are a lot of things that are contributing. I think burnout is one of them. I think through COVID, people, they worked harder than ever. They had more on their plate, and now they were home. In many cases, their kids were going to school with them at the kitchen table next to them. They're still trying to get their job done. So I think burnout was a big contributor to the Great Resignation. I think that looking at alternatives and wanting to do something that people were more passionate about or just wanted something different in their lives. I think that for companies, this is something that is going to take a lot of time to really understand. It's how is that individual motivated? How do we show appreciation for the work and the role that those people are playing? And then I think it's how do we give them, if what they desire is balance. Not everybody wants balance, but if they desire a semblance of balance, that we're giving that to them, or we're helping them. I mean, I have people on my team that I really have to push them to give themselves balance. They will work day and night, which I love, but I also know that can lead to burnout. And so I really want to make sure that they're taking time for their family, they're taking time for themselves.
Okay. All right. Is that anybody else from the audience? I think that, is there one up there? Okay, one more?
Last question. But what has been your most challenging time in your career, especially with the COVID-19 pandemic and everything?
What's been my most challenging time?
Yes.
You know,
and how did you navigate that?
So the first thing that I'll say is I've been through two, I don't know if you call March of 2020 a recession, but I started my business in 2006. In late 2008, early 2009, we hit a recession that lasted for about 2 years. That was my first big challenge, is that I had to get through that when unemployment is high, people are not using outside resources. I really had to power through, make more sales calls, do more. But definitely March of 2020, it was I have a team that I need to support, and all of a sudden, everybody shut down, right? They didn't need recruiters because they didn't know what was going to happen. Everybody went home, and now you're dealing with your own personal crisis, right? I mean, it's a crisis globally, and you're trying to figure out how to continue to do your job, and now your spouse is in the room next to you, and they have a very different work style than you do. It's much louder, and your children's work style is also much louder. But I think the biggest challenge, and what I had to do, was I had to make sure that my team was okay, that they felt good, that they knew we were going to get out of this, that I had to be, even when my head was negative, I had to be positive outwardly. I had to share with them all the things that I really thought were going to happen and keep all that negativity inside.
Okay. Wow, it's been a long day. You've talked a lot.
I have.
Everywhere from the radio to student groups to meeting with faculty and staff and now this. And so, but it's just been we're gonna conclude this now. But it's been such a, again, I mentioned it earlier, a pleasure to have this conversation. Oh.
One more.
We got one. Okay, we have one more. Okay, one more. All right. Sorry, I didn't see that over there.
That's okay. It'll be quick.
Okay.
Do you recommend any books, that I could possibly read, or anyone to give us maybe an advantage in entrepreneurship?
Okay. So a couple of my favorites, Lean In, probably a little more geared toward women, but Lean In is one of my favorites. There is, from an entrepreneurial standpoint, there's a book called The E-Myth. And I think they've revised that version. That is for anyone that thinks at some point in their life they may want to start their own business, that is a great read. The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team is, just something that will give you just a different scope of different personalities and how to bring everyone together. Those are the ones I can think of. Shane, what books do you recommend?
Yes, some of those as well. I should tell the students my textbook, right?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's start out with all of that one. I do a lot of podcasts. No. I mean, I'm going, but the walking or or driving in the car, around leadership or entrepreneurship. So I do a lot of different podcasts, and or even in early morning or whatever. So whether it be, I'm just trying a lot of Simon Sinek, a lot of the business ones, but more of the short 20 to 40 minute ones. My patience isn't too good for books right now, but I do recommend a lot of podcasts. So you can grab a lot of information from there. Yeah. Just like we grabbed a lot of information from you today. Again, really appreciate it. But again, to Richard and Mary Schmitz, the lecturer, Dick, we really appreciate the opportunity to have events like this. And thank you to all of you, the HR directors that came today, the other honored guests. We really appreciate you. And of course, the students, we really appreciate you being here today as well. Also want to thank our marketing team, the 3 students. We had Olivia Anderson and Josie Sanford and Emily Thomas. They were running around all day long, and then especially Jen Cucarillo and Ashley Niss, our marketing directors and coordinators at the College of Business. And if it wasn't for them, I would be, I don't know where I'd be. I go all over the place, but thank you to them as well. And then finally, again, as Dean Flannery said, the Minnesota Valley Business Magazine, who highlights this as well. So we want to make sure we appreciate that. I'm going to throw in one more pitch, kind of from my other role. This is my ag role. We're going to switch to the entrepreneurship, but April 14th is our Big Ideas Challenge, our entrepreneurship where our students compete for thousands of dollars, and so they'll have their competition right up here on stage on April 14th, and that is also at 3:30. So please join us for that. It'll be online and in person as well, and so you can go online and see the finalists and what they have to have their products for this year. So that concludes our event. I've got one more thing to do. Okay, now I got to get up. I'm going to run back here and.
Well, and just quickly, I want to say thank you so much to Brenda and Dick and Shane and everybody that helped put this on. It was a great day. Thank you.
All right. Well, help me thanking Julie for being here today.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Have a good rest of the evening. Thanks for coming.
Can we do a picture together?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that was. Turn this off.